Marcus Thorne stood in the massive assembly hall and felt insignificant. The building stretched upward so high that the ceiling was lost in shadows, creating an almost cathedral-like atmosphere. Around him sat representatives from over 50 different alien species. Some had scales that shimmered in the artificial light, some had fur and patterns he couldn't comprehend, and some looked like they were made of liquid metal that constantly shifted form. They all stared down at the humans from their elevated seats, their expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Marcus was the lead diplomat for Earth. He had spent 4 years trying to get humanity into the Galactic Council. 4 long years of meetings, paperwork, and waiting. Today was supposed to be the culmination of all that effort. Today, humanity would finally join the galaxy as equals. Next to Marcus stood Elena Vasquez, a commander in Earth's defense forces. She wore her military uniform with pride, her posture perfect despite the intimidating surroundings. Her job was to advise Marcus on security matters, but right now, she was watching the aliens carefully. Something felt wrong. High Chancellor Zyler called the meeting to order. The Chancellor looked like a tall insect with too many arms, his exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights. His voice echoed through the hall, translated by universal translators that hum around each delegate's neck. "We have reviewed humanity's petition," the Chancellor said. "We have discussed your species at great length. Today, we present our decision." Marcus felt his heart race. This was it. 4 years of work coming to fruition. A different alien stood up. This one was called Zorgan, and he led something called the Kthar Dominion. Zorgan had dark purple skin and eyes that glowed red. He smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Humanity wishes to join our council," Zorgan said. "We have decided to allow this. However, there are conditions." Marcus nodded. He expected some conditions. New members always had to prove themselves first. First, Zorgan continued, humanity must reduce its military fleet by 70%. You have too many warships for such a young species. Marcus frowned. 70% was even more than he had feared. That would leave Earth almost defenseless. Second, you must accept our guidance overseers. They will live on Earth and help you make better decisions. Elena tensed beside Marcus. Overseers on Earth. That sounded like occupation, not partnership. Third, you must surrender your colonies in the New Eden, Sanctuary, and Frontier systems. These systems are too close to Council space. We will redistribute them. The room went silent. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. Those 3 colonies had over 7 million human beings living on them. People who had left Earth to build new lives. These terms are not negotiable, Zorgan said. He looked directly at Marcus. You are barely evolved primates who stumbled into space travel. You should be grateful we are allowing you any seat at all. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not all the aliens laughed, but many did. They found humanity amusing, primitive, weak. Marcus's hands shook, but he kept his voice steady. These terms are unacceptable. We need time to discuss this with our government. There is nothing to discuss, another alien said. You will accept or you will remain isolated, alone in the galaxy. More laughter. One alien made a comment about human ships being held together with tape and hope. Another joked that humanity would probably blow themselves up before they became a real threat to anyone. Marcus looked at Elena. She leaned close and whispered, I found something during the break. They've already drafted annexation plans. They're going to take more than just those 3 colonies. This is just the start. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. They came here in peace. They came here hoping to join a community of civilized species. Instead, they found bullies who wanted to control them. We request a 1-hour recess, Marcus said loudly. Zorgan waved a hand dismissively. You have 30 minutes, not a moment more. Marcus and Elena walked out of the chamber with the rest of the human delegation. In a private room, Marcus contacted Earth. He spoke directly with President Sarah Chen. They want to disarm us and take our colonies, Marcus explained. They're treating us like children, like property. President Chen was quiet for a moment, then she said, "What do you recommend?" "We walk away," Marcus said. "We came here in good faith." They spit in our face. If we accept these terms, they'll never see us as equals. They'll just keep taking more. I agree, the president said. Come home, Marcus. All of you, come home. The 30 minutes ended. Marcus walked back into the grand chamber. The aliens were still laughing and talking amongst themselves. They barely noticed when the humans entered. Marcus walked to the center of the room. He looked up at the Chancellor and then at Zorgan. He looked at all of them. Humanity withdraws from these negotiations, Marcus said clearly. Permanently. The laughter stopped. The chamber fell completely silent. You cannot be serious, Zorgan said. You need us. You are nothing without the Council. We came to you in peace, Marcus said. We offered friendship and cooperation. You offered insults and slavery. We choose neither. You will regret this, another alien called out. You will come crawling back. Marcus shook his head. No, we won't. He turned and walked toward the exit. Elena and the other humans followed him. Behind them, the chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted and argued. Some demanded the humans be stopped. Others laughed, saying humanity would collapse within months without Council support. Marcus did not look back. He walked through the doors and out of the building. The human ships waited in orbit above the planet. Within an hour, every human was off Nexus Prime. As their ship jumped to faster than light speed, Elena stood beside Marcus at the observation window. They really think we'll come back begging, she said. Marcus smiled grimly. They have no idea who they just insulted. They think we're weak. They're about to learn what happens when you back a human into a corner. What happens? Elena asked. We show them why we survived every disaster our planet threw at us, Marcus said. We show them why we climbed to the top of the food chain. We show them that humanity doesn't kneel. The ship jumped again, leaving the Council far behind. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the aliens continued to argue. None of them understood what had just happened. None of them realized they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had just made an enemy of humanity. Admiral James Mitchell stood in Earth's command center and watched the displays. Numbers scrolled across screens showing military production, fleet positions, and colony fortifications. Everything was moving faster than he had ever seen. How long until the new shipyards are operational? He asked. 2 months, an officer replied. We're building them in record time. James nodded. When the diplomats came home from the Council, everything changed. The president gave him unlimited authority to prepare Earth's defenses. The entire planet mobilized like it was already at war. On the other side of the galaxy, Councillor Zorgan paced in his office. 3 weeks had passed since the humans walked out. He expected them to send a message by now, an apology, a request to return to negotiations. Instead, there was only silence. Still nothing? He asked his aide. No communications from Earth, sir. They have gone completely dark. Zorgan slammed his hand on the desk. This is unacceptable. They are making fools of us. Ambassador Kale entered the office. He was from a species called the Aryans, and he was one of the few council members who had not laughed at the humans. I warned you this might happen, Kale said quietly. They have no choice, Zorgan snapped. They are alone, weak. They will come back. Have you read the reports? Kale asked. He placed a data pad on the desk. Human colonies are fortifying at an alarming rate. They are building defense platforms everywhere. Their shipyards are running 24 hours a day. So what? Let them waste their resources. They are redirecting 45% of their economy to military production, Kale continued. No species does that unless they are preparing for war. Zorgan laughed. War with us? They would last a week. Kale shook his head. I studied their history. Humans have been at war for their entire existence. They know nothing else. When they feel threatened, they become very dangerous. You worry too much, Zorgan said. I will send a fleet to their borders, a show of force. They will see our power and remember their place. Back on Earth, Commander David Chen prepared his crew for a special mission. His ship, the Shadow, was a stealth vessel. It could move through space almost invisible to sensors. Our mission is reconnaissance, David told his crew. We need to know everything about Council military installations, their positions, their strength, their weaknesses. How close are we getting? His second officer asked. As close as necessary, David said with a small smile. For the next month, David and his crew mapped every Council military base within 200 light-years of human space. They collected data on ship movements, communication frequencies, and supply routes. The Council never detected them once. President Sarah Chin reviewed the intelligence reports. She was impressed. The Council had strong fleets, but they were predictable. They followed standard formations and tactics. They had been at peace so long they had forgotten how to really fight. She recorded a message and broadcast it across the entire galaxy. We came to the Galactic Council in peace, she said. We offered our hand in friendship. They chose mockery and threats. So be it. Humanity withdraws into itself. We will trade with those who respect us. We will defend ourselves against those who threaten us. And we will never again bow to those who see us as lesser beings. The message caused chaos across the galaxy. Many species had watched humanity's treatment with concern. Some had experienced similar treatment from the Council. Now they saw humanity standing up. Within days, President Chen received secret communications from 15 different species. They wanted to establish trade with Earth. They wanted to buy human technology. Some even hinted at defense agreements. In the Council chambers, this news caused panic. They are building alliances, one counselor said. Independent species are abandoning us for the humans. This cannot be allowed. Another agreed. Zorgan stood. I propose we send a fleet to human borders immediately. We will show them the price of defiance. The vote was close, but it passed. A fleet of 250 ships assembled and jumped toward human space. Admiral Mitchell received the warning from David's scouts. The Council fleet was coming. How long? He asked. They will reach the border system in 6 hours, David reported. Good, James said. That gives us time to greet them properly. The Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of human territory. The admiral in command, a Kthar officer named Vrax, expected to find a few human ships, maybe a small station. Instead, he found a fortress. The system had been transformed. Massive defense platforms floated in precise formations. Minefields stretched for thousands of kilometers. Weapons installations covered every approach vector. And behind it all, the human fleet waited in perfect formation. How many ships? Vrax asked, his voice shaking. Over 350 human warships, his sensor officer reported. And those platforms have more firepower than our entire fleet combined. Vrax stared at the displays in disbelief. The humans had built all of this in less than 2 months. It was impossible. A message came through from the human fleet. Admiral Mitchell appeared on screen. This is human territory, James said calmly. Your presence here is unwelcome. Leave now or we will remove you. You dare threaten us? Vrax tried to sound confident, but his voice betrayed his fear. This is not a threat, James replied. This is a promise. You came here to intimidate us. Instead, you see what happens when you challenge humanity. We asked for peace. You chose to make us prepare for war. Now you see the results. Vrax looked at his officers. None of them wanted to fight. They were supposed to scare the humans, not face them in battle. "We are leaving," Vrax finally said. "Wise choice," James said. "Tell your council this. We will not attack you. We will not invade your space. But if you cross into ours, if you threaten our people, we will respond with overwhelming force. We wanted to be your friends. You made us your armed neighbors instead." The council fleet turned and jumped away. They did not fire a single shot. When Zorgan heard the report, he threw his desk console across the room. "They made fools of us," he roared. "They made us look weak." Another counselor agreed. Kale watched them rage and felt worry growing in his chest. Zorgan was angry now, embarrassed. Men like him did not forgive embarrassment. They did not back down. This was not over. This was just the beginning. 6 months had passed since humanity walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Captain Rachel Kim sat in the command chair of her ship. The vessel was special, designed for stealth operations. It could hide in the shadow of a moon or drift like space debris. The Council had no idea ships like this even existed. "Target system ahead," her navigator reported. "Take us in slow," Rachel ordered. "I want a complete scan of their military installations." Her crew worked in silence. They had done this 50 times before. They entered Council space, mapped everything they found, and left without being detected. The information they gathered went straight back to Earth. In another part of space, Lieutenant Thomas Wu sat in an intelligence office reviewing data. He had spent months studying Council communications. What he found made him angry. "You need to see this," he told his commander. The data showed something disturbing. For over 600 years, the Galactic Council had been suppressing other species. When a new species developed advanced technology, the Council would force them to share it. When a species became too powerful, the Council would impose sanctions and restrictions. The Council claimed to promote peace and cooperation. In reality, they were keeping everyone weak and dependent. "Send this to the President," the commander said. "She needs to know." President Chen reviewed the evidence. She made a decision quickly. "Release it," she told her staff. "Send it to every species in the galaxy. Let them see what the Council really is." The information spread like wildfire. Independent news networks picked it up. Scientists verified it. Suddenly, species that had trusted the Council for centuries began asking questions. Why had the Council forced them to abandon certain technologies? Why were human ideas and innovations always dismissed? Why did the Council fear progress? In the Council chambers, emergency meetings happened every day. Member species demanded answers. Some threatened to leave. The careful order the Council had maintained for centuries was collapsing. "The humans did this," Zorgan shouted during one meeting. "They are trying to destroy us." "No," Kale replied. "We did this to ourselves. We built our power on lies and control. The humans simply showed everyone the truth." "We must take action," another counselor said. "Before we lose everything." "What action?" Kale asked. "We tried intimidation. It failed. The humans are too strong. Then we force other species to choose," Zorgan said. "Us or them." But that strategy also failed. Instead of choosing the Council, many species began signing quiet agreements with Earth, trade deals, technology exchanges, some even discussed defense pacts. Merchant Prince Joran was one of them. He was an independent trader who saw opportunity. "The Council has been cheating us for years," he told his associates. "Taking our goods at low prices and selling them high. The humans offer fair trade. They treat us with respect." Joran began routing his convoys through human space. Other traders followed. Soon, human colonies were becoming major trade hubs. Rachel Kim continued her missions. Each trip brought back more intelligence. She learned the Council's shield frequencies, their weapon capabilities, their patrol routes. The information was detailed and precise. They have no idea we're watching them, her tactical officer said one day. That's because they still think we're primitive, Rachel replied. They think our technology is inferior. They have no idea what we're capable of. She was right. Human ships used stealth systems based on technology the Council had never encountered. They moved through space like ghosts. Meanwhile, Thomas Wu discovered something else. The Council was planning to cut off trade to human space. They wanted to isolate Earth economically, force them to surrender through starvation. They're going to blockade neutral systems, Thomas reported. Stop anyone from trading with us. Admiral Mitchell brought this information to President Chen. They're escalating, he said. They can't defeat us militarily, so they're trying economics. Can they succeed? The president asked. Not anymore, James replied. We have too many secret agreements, too many species who need what we offer. A blockade would hurt them more than it hurts us. The president nodded. Then we wait. Let them make the next mistake. The mistake came 3 weeks later. A human cargo ship traveled through neutral space carrying medicine to an independent colony. The colony had asked Earth for help during a plague outbreak. The ship was unarmed and clearly marked as humanitarian. A council patrol intercepted it. The patrol commander, angry about humanity's success, made a terrible decision. He ordered his ships to fire. The cargo ship exploded. 23 crew members died instantly. When the news reached Earth, the entire planet went silent. Then came the rage. Admiral Mitchell appeared on every screen in the galaxy. His face was cold and hard. You spilled human blood, he said. That cargo ship was on a mercy mission. It carried medicine for the sick and dying. It threatened no one. Yet you destroyed it and murdered its crew. He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was like ice. You call yourselves civilized. You claim to promote peace, yet you attack the defenseless. You kill those who try to help others. Another pause. The Galactic Council has 72 hours to surrender the officers responsible for this attack. They will stand trial for murder. If the Council refuses, we will come and take them. The transmission ended in the Council chambers. Chaos erupted. This is war, someone shouted. They cannot make demands of us, another yelled. High Chancellor Zyler raised his hands for silence. For the first time, he looked truly worried. What do we do? He asked. We refuse, Zorgan declared. We are the Galactic Council. We bow to no one, especially not to humans. Kale stood up. You are making a terrible mistake. Those humans died on a mercy mission. The entire galaxy saw it happen. If we protect their killers, we prove everything the humans said about us is true. We show weakness if we surrender our officers, Zorgan argued. We show weakness if we let humans dictate terms to us. Another counselor agreed. The vote was called. By a narrow margin, the council decided to refuse Earth's demand. They called it an unfortunate accident. They offered financial compensation to the families. They claimed it was a misunderstanding, but they would not surrender the officers responsible. On Earth, Admiral Mitchell received the council's response. He looked at President Chen. They refused, he said simply. The president's expression did not change. Then we go get them. Prepare the fleet, Admiral. Show the galaxy what happens when you kill humans and hide behind politics. Yes, ma'am, James said. He turned to his officers. Sound general quarters. All ships to battle stations. We're going to council space. For the first time in human history, Earth's military was going to war against an alien power. And they were going with one purpose, justice. The countdown began. 72 hours turned to 48, then 24, then 0. The council waited, hoping the humans were bluffing. They were not. The human fleet appeared at the edge of council space exactly 72 hours after the deadline. 250 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Admiral James Mitchell stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the tactical displays. "All ships report ready," his second officer said. "Open a channel to the Council," James ordered. High Chancellor Zyler appeared on the screen. He looked nervous. "Admiral, this is an act of war," the Chancellor said. "No," James replied calmly. "This is an act of justice. You murdered 23 of our people. You refused to hand over those responsible, so we have come to take them." "We will not allow this," Moreta said, trying to sound firm. "You have no choice," James said. "This is your last chance. Surrender the officers who ordered the attack. We will take them peacefully for trial. Refuse, and we will take them by force." The channel went dark. The council was deliberating. 10 minutes later, Zorgan's voice came through instead. "You will leave our space immediately. If you do not, we will destroy your fleet." James smiled coldly. "You can try." The council fleet moved to intercept. 350 ships against humanity's 250. On paper, the council had the advantage. Commander Michael Lee led the human fighter wings. His pilots were young but well-trained. They had studied every battle in human history, learning tactics from ancient wars. "Remember your training," Michael told his squadrons. "Fast, unpredictable, aggressive. Don't give them time to think." The battle began. The council ships moved in traditional formation, advancing in neat lines. It was textbook military doctrine practiced for centuries. The human ships scattered. Council admirals watched in confusion as the human fleet broke apart into smaller groups. Some ships dove under the council formation, others flanked from the sides. A third group charged straight ahead. "What are they doing?" a council tactical officer asked. "This makes no sense." It made perfect sense to the humans. They were using chaos as a weapon. Michael's fighters screamed into battle. Instead of engaging in orderly dogfights, they attacked in waves, hit and run, strike and fade. The council pilots could not predict their movements. "They are not following any tactical doctrine," a council pilot reported in panic. That was the point. The council relied on predictable tactics. The humans had studied those tactics and found every weakness. Commander Elena Vasquez led a special operations team on a different mission. While the fleet kept the council busy, her team approached a secure facility on the planet below. Intelligence said the officers responsible for the cargo ship attack were there. "Stealth insertion in 5 minutes," her pilot reported. They landed in the dark away from security patrols. Elena's team moved like shadows through the facility. They had practiced this mission 100 times. "Target location ahead," her second whispered. They found the officers in a secure bunker. The council thought they were safe there. Elena's team used cutting-edge equipment to breach the doors. The officers inside barely had time to react before they were stunned and secured. "Package secured," Elena reported to Admiral Mitchell. "Extracting now." In space, the battle was turning into a disaster for the council. Their neat formations had collapsed under human attacks. Ships that had never faced real combat were breaking apart under pressure. Lieutenant Sarah Kim coordinated the human assault from the tactical center. She had designed the strategy herself. "Group 3, flank their command ship," she ordered. "Group 1, break their left formation. Group 2, keep them guessing." It was controlled chaos. The humans looked disorganized, but every move was calculated. Every attack had a purpose. The council fleet tried to regroup. They tried to form defensive positions, but every time they organized, the humans would attack from a new direction. "They are everywhere," a council admiral shouted. "How are they moving so fast?" Human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Human pilots were better trained. Human tactics were evolved from thousands of years of warfare. The council had been at peace for too long. They had forgotten how brutal combat could be. Zorgan watched the battle from his command center and felt fear growing. This was not supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to be weak. Primitive. Sir, they have captured 3 of our shipyards, an officer reported. What? How? They landed troops while we were focused on the fleet battle. The shipyards are intact. They did not destroy them. They just took them. Zorgan realized the terrible truth. The humans were not just defeating them. They were humiliating them. Admiral Mitchell received the report from Elena. We have the prisoners, she said. No casualties. Excellent work, Commander, James replied. All ships begin withdrawal. We have what we came for. The human fleet disengaged as smoothly as it had attacked. The Council fleet was too damaged and disorganized to pursue. In 3 hours, humanity had accomplished its mission. They had entered Council space, defeated a larger fleet, captured 3 shipyards, extracted the criminals they wanted, and left with minimal losses. The galaxy watched in shock. Species that had feared the Council for centuries saw them defeated by humans in a single engagement. Independent worlds that had considered allying with humanity now rushed to sign agreements. Council member species began withdrawing their support. Some declared neutrality. Others quietly contacted Earth to discuss terms. Admiral Mitchell broadcast a message from the captured Council flagship. He stood on the bridge where Zorgan had commanded the attack. We did not want this war, he said. We came to your Council in peace. You insulted us. We withdrew. You attacked our ships. We defended ourselves. You murdered our people. We came for justice. He paused, looking directly at the camera. Let me tell you something about humanity. We have been fighting since we learned to stand upright. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and countless wars. We have fought with stones, with swords, with guns, with nuclear weapons. We have spent 12,000 years learning how to destroy each other. Another pause. Every human child studies war. We have books about it, movies about it, games about it. We write poetry about battles. We honor our warriors. We remember every fight we ever had. His expression hardened. You are not ready for us. Your fleets follow predictable patterns. Your admirals read the same textbooks. Your ships move in neat formations. You have been at peace so long you have forgotten what war really means. He gestured to the damaged Council ships visible through the windows. This was not war. This was a lesson, a demonstration. We came here for 23 people and we took them. If we wanted to, we could have taken your entire fleet. We could have bombed your planets. We could have destroyed everything. He paused again. But we did not, because we are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We are people who wanted to live in peace among the stars. You would not let us have that peace. His voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. So now you have seen what we are capable of. Now you understand why our greatest works of art are about war. Why we remember our battles more than our triumphs. Why we have never stopped preparing for the next fight. You made a mistake when you laughed at us. You made a mistake when you attacked us. Learn from these mistakes, because if you make another one, next time we will not show mercy. The broadcast ended in the Council chambers. High Chancellor Zyler sat in silence. Around him councillors argued and shouted. Some blamed Zorgan, others blamed each other. Kale approached the Chancellor quietly. It is over, he said. The Council as we knew it is finished. What do we do? Zyler asked, sounding very old and very tired. We negotiate, Kale replied. On their terms this time. 4 months after the first shot was fired, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on a neutral station. This time they came to Earth's terms. Ambassador Marcus Thorne walked into the conference room. It was smaller than the Grand Chamber on Nexus Prime, more intimate, less intimidating. That was intentional. President Sarah Chen had insisted the negotiations happen on equal ground. No elevated seats, no grand displays of power, just tables and chairs where everyone sat at the same level. Marcus looked at the aliens gathering. He saw High Chancellor Xyler looking older and more tired than before. He saw Ambassador Kale, who nodded respectfully. He saw representatives from dozens of species, some who had fought against humanity, others who had remained neutral. Counselor Zorgan was not there. He was awaiting trial for war crimes along with the officers who had killed the cargo ship crew. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus said as the meeting began. "4 months ago, I stood in your chamber and asked for partnership. Today we meet to discuss a new future." Xyler spoke up. His voice was humble now, very different from before. "Ambassador Thorne, we owe you an apology. We treated your species with disrespect. We underestimated you. We paid the price for that mistake." "Apologies are a start," Marcus replied. "But they are not enough. The galaxy needs real change." He activated a display showing proposals for a new governing structure. The Galactic Council failed because it was built on control and fear. Species were kept weak and dependent. Innovation was suppressed. Justice was selective. Many aliens nodded. They had learned the truth over the past months. "We propose a new system," Marcus continued. "A galactic assembly where every species has equal representation, where decisions require consensus, not majority rule, where no single species or group can dominate others." "That will be difficult to maintain," one alien representative said. "Democracy is always difficult," President Chen said, joining the conference via video link. "It requires patience, compromise, and respect for others, but it is better than tyranny dressed up as order." The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. There were arguments and disagreements. Some species wanted to maintain parts of the old system. Others wanted even more radical changes. Captain Rachel Kim, now promoted to commander, provided security for the negotiations. She watched the delegates carefully, remembering how humans had been treated before. "Do you trust them?" a young officer asked her. "Trust is earned," Rachel replied. "We'll see if they learn from this." Admiral James Mitchell returned to Earth as a hero. The planet celebrated his victory, but James did not feel like celebrating. He had seen too many ships destroyed, too many lives lost on both sides. "You did what was necessary," President Chen told him. "I know," James said, "but I hope we never have to do it again." "That depends on them," the president replied. The trials of Zorgan and the other war criminals were broadcast across the galaxy. They were given fair trials with proper representation. Evidence was presented clearly. Witnesses testified. All were found guilty. The sentences ranged from imprisonment to exile. Justice was served, but not revenge. "We could have executed them," Elena Vasquez said to Marcus during a break in negotiations. "We could have," Marcus agreed. "But then we would be no better than they were. We fight for justice, not vengeance." After 3 weeks, an agreement was reached. The old Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place came the Galactic Assembly with new rules and new leadership. Every species would have a voice. Smaller species would be protected, not exploited. Technology would be shared freely. Military forces would be defensive, not aggressive. And most importantly, no species would be considered superior to another. Humanity was offered a seat on the founding Leadership Council. President Chen accepted on behalf of Earth. Many species joined the new assembly eagerly. They had been waiting for change for centuries. A few species remained bitter, but they were a small minority. None dared challenge the new order openly. The economic changes came quickly. Trade routes that had been controlled by the Council opened up. Human colonies became major commercial centers. Technology flowed freely between species. Independent traders like merchant Prince Joran prospered. "I knew the humans were smart," Joran told his associates. "When everyone else laughed, I saw opportunity. Now look at us." Ambassador Kale approached Marcus privately after the final agreement was signed. "I want to thank you," Kale said. For what? Marcus asked. For doing what my people could not. The council suppressed us for 600 years. We knew it was wrong, but we were too afraid to stand up. You showed us courage. We had no choice, Marcus replied. No, Kale said firmly. You had a choice. You could have submitted. You could have fought and become conquerors. Instead, you fought for justice and then offered peace. That is true strength. The two shook hands, starting what would become a strong alliance between their species. Months passed. The new Galactic Assembly found its rhythm. There were still arguments and disagreements, but they were settled through discussion, not threats. Human technology began spreading through the galaxy. Medical advances saved millions of lives. Agricultural techniques ended famines. Educational programs raised literacy rates. Earth shared everything freely. They asked for fair payment, not tribute. They offered partnership, not domination. We could rule them, an admiral suggested to President Chen one day. Our military is stronger than any three species combined. We could, Chen agreed. But that is not who we are. We did not fight for power. We fought for respect. Marcus Thorne stood on an observation deck watching ships from dozens of species dock at a human station. They came to trade, to share knowledge, to simply visit. A young diplomatic aide approached him. Ambassador, do you think the peace will last? Marcus thought about the question. He remembered the insults in the council chamber. He remembered the battles. He remembered the lives lost. That depends, he said finally. On what? On whether they remember the lesson we taught them. Marcus watched an alien cargo ship dock next to a human freighter. We are peaceful people. We prefer trade to war, cooperation to conflict, but we will never allow ourselves to be victims. He turned to the young aide. Peace lasts when everyone respects each other. When the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them, when justice matters more than power. And if they forget, the aide asked. Marcus's expression hardened slightly. Then we remind them. We chose to be peaceful. We can choose otherwise. He looked back at the ships outside. But I believe they will remember. Fear fades over time, but respect can last forever. We gave them both. I think they will hold on to the respect. The young aide nodded and left. Marcus remained at the window, watching the peaceful exchange of ships and cargo. President Chen was right. Democracy was difficult. Peace was fragile. But both were worth fighting for. Humanity had come to the stars seeking friends. They found bullies instead. So they showed the galaxy what happens when you mistake patience for weakness and peace for cowardice. Now they were showing the galaxy something else. How to build something better. How to create a society where all species could thrive. The old council had ruled through fear and control for 1,000 years. In 4 months, humanity had torn that down and built something new. Not through conquest, not through tyranny, through standing up for what was right. Marcus smiled as he watched a human child and an alien child play together in the station's common area, their parents watching nearby. This was why they fought. Not for glory or power, but for this moment, for a future where humans and aliens could live together as equals. The galaxy was learning, and humanity would make sure the lesson stuck. The new Galactic Assembly had been operating for 6 months when the first major challenge arrived. A previously unknown species from the unexplored outer regions made contact. They called themselves the Xylos, and they were refugees fleeing a catastrophic event in their home system. The Xylos were crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns and harmonic frequencies. Their ships, organic in nature, had traveled for generations to reach assembly space. They were starving, exhausted, and desperate. The assembly convened an emergency session. This would be their first test of the new principles they had established. We must help them, said Ambassador Kale, speaking for the Aryans. Our founding documents state that all species have the right to asylum when facing extinction. Several representatives nodded in agreement, but others looked concerned. Their needs are immense, said a representative from the reptilian slith species. Our resources are already strained from the recent conflicts. Can we really support 7 million refugees? The debate grew heated. Some species argued for immediate assistance, others for caution. Marcus Thorne listened carefully, recognizing the delicate balance between compassion and practicality. President Chen addressed the assembly via holographic transmission. Humanity will take responsibility for 1 million Xylos refugees, she announced. We have colonies in the frontier system that can accommodate them. We will provide food, medical care, and assistance in rebuilding their society. This declaration shifted the tone of the discussion. If the recently attacked humans could extend such generosity, how could others refuse? By the end of the session, the Assembly had agreed to distribute the Xylos population among member worlds, with Earth taking the largest share. It was a testament to how the new galactic order was already changing minds and hearts. As Marcus left the chamber, he was approached by a Xylos representative who communicated through a translation device. We had heard stories of your species, the crystalline being pulsed. Stories of your ferocity in battle. We feared you. And now? Marcus asked. Now we see that your strength comes not just from your ability to fight, but from your willingness to help strangers. You are a paradox, humans. You carry both sword and open hand. Marcus smiled. Perhaps that's what it means to be civilized. Knowing when to use each. Not everyone was happy with the new order. Former council members who had lost power and prestige plotted in the shadows. Among them was Forlag, once a high-ranking military commander from the Cthar Dominion. Forlag had been stripped of his rank and exiled to a remote outpost after the war. He blamed humanity for his downfall and dreamed of revenge. He wasn't alone. Disaffected elements from various species had formed a clandestine organization they called the True Order. They believed the Assembly was weak, that the galaxy needed the firm hand of the old council. The humans have made us soft, Forlag told his followers during a secret meeting. They preach equality while secretly consolidating power. Look how they took in the Xylos refugees. It's not compassion, it's a strategy to create indebted allies. His words resonated with those who had lost status in the new regime. Slowly, their numbers grew, their plans taking shape in the darkness between stars. Meanwhile, Rachel Kim, now head of Assembly Intelligence, had begun noticing suspicious patterns. Small ships disappearing, unusual communications in uncharted sectors, arms dealers reporting unusual requests. Something is brewing, she reported to President Chen. It's organized, well-funded, and operating across multiple species. The president nodded grimly. The old ways die hard. Keep monitoring. I want to know who's behind this before they make their move. Unbeknownst to both, the True Order was already planning their first major operation, an attack that would destabilize the Assembly and turn public opinion against humanity. The Assembly scheduled a peace summit on the neutral planet of Haven, bringing together delegates from every member world. It was meant to be a celebration of their first year of cooperation, a symbolic event to solidify the new galactic community. Security was tight, with contributions from multiple species. Commander Elena Vasquez led the human security detail, working alongside counterparts from across the Assembly. The summit is a tempting target, she warned during a briefing. We need to assume someone will try something. Her concerns were well-founded. Forlag and the True Order saw the summit as the perfect opportunity to strike back. They planned a sophisticated attack that would appear to be caused by human negligence, turning other species against Earth. The summit began with speeches celebrating the Assembly's achievements. Marcus Thorne spoke of humanity's journey from outcast to partner, emphasizing their commitment to the new order. We came to the stars seeking equals, he said. We found bullies, but we refused to become bullies ourselves. We fought for the right to participate as equals, and now we fight for the right of all species to do the same. The applause was genuine, a sign of how far relationships had progressed. As the summit entered its second day, the attack came. It started with a series of explosions in the security wing, creating chaos and confusion. Then, snipers positioned in surrounding buildings began firing on the delegates. Elena Vasquez immediately recognized the strategy. "They're trying to make this look like our security failed," she shouted into her communicator. "Protect the delegates. Find those shooters." Human security teams performed admirably, quickly organizing a defense and evaluating dignitaries. But the damage was done. Representatives from several species were injured, and 2 were killed. In the aftermath, suspicion fell on humanity. The security breaches had occurred in areas under human protection. The weapons used were traced to a human arms dealer. "We have evidence that the human delegation was warned of the attack beforehand but failed to act," claimed a Slith representative on Assembly news channels. Marcus Thorne and President Chen vehemently denied the accusations, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. The Assembly's unity was fractured just as Forlag had planned. Rachel Kim's intelligence team worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind the summit attack. The evidence against humanity was too perfect, too convenient. "This was framed," Rachel told her team. "Every lead points to humans, but the trails are too clean. We're looking at a professional operation." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A junior analyst named Jason Rodriguez noticed something odd in the communication logs. "These encrypted messages," he said, pointing to his screen. "They're using human encryption protocols, but with Cthar syntax patterns. It's like someone trying to speak human with a Cthar accent." Following this lead, Rachel's team traced the communications back to Forlag's exile colony. The connection was undeniable. Meanwhile, political tensions escalated. Several species called for humanity's suspension from the Assembly leadership pending a full investigation. Others defended Earth, creating a bitter divide. President Chen addressed the Assembly, her expression serious but determined. "We understand the suspicion," she said. "The evidence appears damning. But I ask you to remember who we are. We fought for justice, not power. We have no motive for this attack. In fact, it harms our position more than anyone's." She paused, looking directly at the camera. "We request that Assembly intelligence be given full access to our records. We have nothing to hide. But we also ask that you consider who benefits from this division. Who wanted the Assembly to fail from the beginning?" Her words resonated with some, but others remained unconvinced. The investigation continued under intense scrutiny. Rachel Kim's team finally broke through the True Order's security measures. They uncovered not just a plot against the summit, but a comprehensive plan to destabilize the entire Assembly. The evidence was overwhelming. Forlag and his followers had orchestrated the attack, using stolen human security codes and manipulated weapons trails to frame Earth. They had contacts in multiple species, all former Council loyalists who had lost power. "We need to present this carefully," Rachel told President Chen. "If we just release the information, it will look like we're trying to deflect blame." They decided on a different approach. Rachel arranged a meeting with Ambassador Kale, one of the few voices of reason during the crisis. "We have evidence that clears humanity," Rachel said, "but revealing it through official channels might not be convincing enough. We need an independent verification." Kale studied the data Rachel provided. His expression grew grim as he realized the implications. "This is worse than I imagined," he said. "The True Order isn't just targeting humans. They're planning a series of attacks that will destabilize the entire Assembly, hoping to return to the old ways." Together, they devised a plan. Kale would present the evidence to a select group of trusted representatives from different species. They would form an independent investigation committee that could verify the findings without political bias. The committee worked quickly, following the digital trails Rachel had uncovered. They confirmed human innocence and identified the True Order members involved. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Assembly. Many who had suspected humanity now felt betrayed by those they had trusted. Forlag and his inner circle were arrested, but the damage to trust would take longer to repair. The summit attack had revealed vulnerabilities in the new system that needed to be addressed. In the aftermath of the True Order conspiracy, the Assembly faced a crisis of confidence. The summit attack had shown how easily their new unity could be fractured. President Chen called for an assembly-wide conference on security and cooperation. It would be held on Earth, a symbolic gesture of humanity's commitment to transparency. We need to learn from this, Chen told her advisors. Our system is still new, still fragile. We need to build safeguards that can withstand attempts to divide us. The conference brought together security experts, diplomats, and leaders from across the assembly. They worked to redesign security protocols, establish joint intelligence operations, and create rapid response teams that could operate across species boundaries. Marcus Thorne played a key role in the diplomatic discussions, helping to rebuild trust through honest dialogue. We were too quick to, a Slith representative admitted. The old habits of suspicion die hard. That's understandable, Marcus replied. Generations of council rule taught you to be cautious. But the assembly is different. We're building something based on trust, not fear. The conference resulted in the Assembly Security Accord, a comprehensive agreement that would prevent another summit attack. More importantly, it began the process of healing the divisions the conspiracy had created. As the conference concluded, Ambassador Kale approached Marcus. Humanity has shown remarkable patience through this crisis, he said. Many species would have withdrawn from the assembly when accused. We considered it, Marcus admitted. But we remembered why we fought in the first place. We didn't overthrow one tyranny to create another. Kale nodded. The assembly is stronger now because of what happened. We've learned that unity requires constant effort, constant vigilance. Indeed, Marcus agreed. And we're just getting started. 2 years after the formation of the Galactic Assembly, humanity's role in galactic affairs had evolved. No longer seen as newcomers or aggressors, humans had become respected partners in the ongoing project of building a more equitable galaxy. Earth's colonies had grown into thriving multicultural centers. The Xylos refugees had integrated successfully, their unique crystalline technology advancing medical science across the assembly. Human and alien children attended schools together, learning multiple languages and customs. Admiral James Mitchell, now head of Assembly Defense Coordination, worked to integrate the military forces of member species. The old Council's approach had been to maintain superiority through advanced weapons and strict hierarchy. Mitchell's approach was different. We're not building an army, he told the Defense Council. We're creating a protective network. Each species contributes what it does best. Humans bring adaptability and rapid response. The Aryans bring long-range detection. The Slith bring ground defense capabilities. The integrated defense force faced its first test when a mysterious alien threat emerged from unexplored space. These new aliens, the Void Walkers, seemed to appear and disappear at will, attacking remote outposts and disappearing before help could arrive. The Assembly's response was coordinated and effective. Human rapid response ships worked with Aryan sensor arrays to predict Void Walker movements. Slith ground forces fortified vulnerable positions. The unified strategy gradually pushed the mysterious attackers back. We couldn't have done this under the old Council, Mitchell noted during a debriefing. The Council would have seen this as a threat to their authority and tried to handle it alone. The Assembly sees it as a threat to everyone and responds together. The successful defense against the Void Walkers further solidified the Assembly's reputation and humanity's role within it. Even former skeptics began to see the value of this new approach to galactic governance. A decade after humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, a new generation was coming of age in the Assembly. Children born after the war had never known the old order. To them, cooperation between species was normal, not revolutionary. One such young person was Maya Chen, daughter of President Sarah Chen. Now 20 years old, Maya had grown up in the diplomatic circles of the new assembly. She spoke 5 alien languages fluently and had spent her formative years on various worlds. Maya represented the future that humanity had fought for, a future where humans were not outsiders trying to fit in, but integral parts of a diverse galactic community. She worked as a junior aide to Marcus Thorne, who had become Assembly Chancellor. The position rotated among species, and Marcus's selection had been unanimous. "You've seen the reports from the outer colonies," Marcus said to Maya one day. "What do you think about the expansion proposal?" Maya considered the question carefully. The mining colonies want more autonomy, but they also need protection from pirate activity. "We could establish local defense forces under assembly oversight, but with regional command structures." Marcus nodded. "That's exactly what the proposal recommends." "You have good instincts." Maya smiled. "I learned from the best." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. A newly discovered species had made contact, but their initial communications were hostile and threatening. The old council would have sent a fleet to subjugate them, Maya noted. "And what should we do?" Marcus asked. "Send a diplomatic team," Maya replied without hesitation. "But also a defense escort. Not as a threat, but as protection. We show them we come in peace, but we won't be bullied." Marcus smiled. "You really do understand." On the 15th anniversary of humanity's rejection by the old council, Marcus Thorne stood on the observation deck of the Assembly headquarters. The station orbited Earth, a symbolic reminder of how far they had come. Below, ships from dozens of species moved in orderly patterns. Trade vessels, military patrols, diplomatic ships, all working together in a system that had once been dominated by a single power. Elena Vasquez, now head of Assembly Security, joined him at the window. "Remember how nervous we were that first day?" she asked. "Walking into that council chamber, hoping they would accept us." Marcus smiled. "I remember thinking how small we seemed. How primitive." "Turns out being primitive had its advantages," Elena noted. "We hadn't forgotten how to fight. We hadn't forgotten how to survive." They fell silent for a moment, watching the peaceful scene outside. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had accepted their terms?" Marcus asked. "We'd be colonies now," Elena finished, her voice quiet. "Or worse. Our culture diluted, our military dismantled, our colonies handed over to species who saw us as property. We would have lost what makes us human." Marcus nodded, his gaze still fixed on the ships outside. "And in the process, we would have lost the chance to help build all this." He gestured to the bustling space around them. "Sometimes I wonder if that was the plan all along. Not just to control us, but to prevent us from becoming what we are now." "A partner in a true galactic community," Elena said. They couldn't stand the thought of equals. The old council thrived on hierarchy. A chime from Marcus's communicator interrupted their reflection. It was a Priority 1 message from Assembly Intelligence. Chancellor Thorne, Rachel Kim's face appeared on the small screen, her expression grim. "We have a situation. A big one." Marcus felt a familiar knot tighten in his stomach. "Go ahead, Commander." "For the past 3 standard cycles, we've been losing contact with outer colonies. Not human colonies, not Assembly members, but independent worlds on the fringes of known space." "Lost contact how?" Elena asked, leaning in. "Pirate attacks? Communication failures?" "That's just it," Rachel said, shaking her head. "It's not a failure. It's a silence. The signals are just gone. No distress calls, no debris fields, no energy signatures. It's as if the planets and their populations have been wiped from existence, leaving nothing behind." Marcus felt a cold dread creep up his spine. "How many worlds?" "So far, we've confirmed 12. The latest was a thriving trading outpost with over 1 million inhabitants. One cycle, they're broadcasting trade routes and weather reports. The next, nothing. Just cosmic background radiation. Could it be a new weapon?" Elena suggested. "Something that sterilizes a planet from orbit?" "We've considered that," Rachel replied. "But there's no residue, no radiation, no evidence of any kind of weapon we know. The scout ships we've sent to investigate have found nothing. Just empty cities with power still running, food on tables, and no people. It's like the entire population simply vanished." The word vanished, hung in the air. This was not an enemy they could fight. This was not a problem they could solve with ships or soldiers. This was something else entirely. "I'm calling an emergency session of the Assembly," Marcus said, his voice firm despite the unease he felt. "Rachel, I want you to present your findings. Elena, put the fleet on high alert. Not for an attack, but for search and rescue. We need to understand what we're facing." As Rachel and Elena signed off to carry out their orders, Marcus looked back out the window. The peaceful scene of ships docking and departing now seemed fragile, like a delicate glass sculpture. For 15 years, they had built a society based on cooperation and mutual respect. They had faced down tyrants and conspirators. But now, they were facing something that had no face, no demands, no motives they could comprehend. They were facing the void itself. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly was held in the main auditorium, a room designed to foster a sense of shared purpose. Today, however, it was filled with fear. Rachel Kim stood at the central podium, her image projected on large screens throughout the chamber. She methodically presented the data from the 12 silent worlds. "As you can see from these deep-range scans," she said, indicating a star chart, "the disappearances follow no discernible pattern. The worlds are spread across hundreds of light years, with different species, different environments, different levels of technology. The only thing they have in common is their sudden and complete silence." She played recordings from the final moments of contact with each world. In each case, the transmissions ended mid-sentence. A merchant captain discussing cargo prices. A meteorologist reporting atmospheric conditions. A child's laughter in a family broadcast. Then, static. Not the chaotic static of a destroyed transmitter, but the empty, perfect static of dead air. The representatives of the Assembly watched in stunned silence. The Slith delegate, a massive reptilian named Kthar, finally spoke. "This is impossible. A civilization cannot simply disappear. Where are the bodies? Where are the ships?" "That is the central mystery," Rachel answered. "Our scout teams have conducted ground surveys on 3 of the worlds. They found no signs of struggle, no biological hazards, no energy fluctuations. It is as if the populations were erased." A wave of murmurs spread through the chamber. Erased. The word was more terrifying than killed or destroyed. It implied a power beyond their understanding. President Saracen stood up. "The Assembly will not abandon these worlds or their people. We will dedicate all available resources to solving this mystery. Admiral Mitchell is coordinating a massive search effort. But we need more than ships. We need ideas. I am officially opening the floor for any theory, no matter how unconventional." The next few hours were a whirlwind of speculation. Some proposed a natural phenomenon, a localized spatial anomaly. Others suggested a hyper-advanced species was conducting some kind of cosmic experiment. A few, the more fearful ones, spoke of ancient myths about galactic harvesters or beings that fed on consciousness itself. Maya Chen, watching from a junior aid station, listened to it all. She had grown up in a galaxy of rules, of predictable dangers like pirates and political maneuvering. This was different. This was the unknown, the deep, dark abyss that lay beyond the edge of their maps. She noticed an older representative from a reclusive species of telepaths called the Elara. The Elaran delegate, an elegant being with shimmering skin, had not spoken. She just sat with her eyes closed, her face a mask of concentration. After the main discussions had subsided, Maya approached her. "Excuse me, Delegate Elara," she said softly. "Do you have any thoughts on what we've heard?" The Elaran slowly opened her eyes. They were a deep, swirling violet that seemed to see right through Maya. "Your kind thinks in terms of matter and energy," the delegate said, her voice a whisper in Maya's mind. "You look for ships and weapons. You are looking for the wrong thing. What if the threat is not something that comes to the worlds, but something the worlds go to?" Maya frowned. "I don't understand." "There is a silence in the void between galaxies," the Elaran continued. "A hunger. We have felt it for millennia, a distant, patient emptiness. We thought it was just the nature of the universe. But now it feels closer. As if it has found a way to reach across the darkness. Before Maya could ask more, the Ellerin closed her eyes again, withdrawing into herself. But her words sent a chill down Maya's spine. The threat wasn't an invasion. It was an invitation. A silent, irresistible call to nowhere. The Ellerin delegate's cryptic warning haunted Maya. She spent the next few cycles in the Assembly's main library, a vast repository of knowledge from hundreds of species. She searched for any mention of a silence, a hunger, or anything that matched the Ellerin's description. Most of what she found was dismissed as mythology or superstition. Tales of stars that went out without reason, of entire civilizations that simply walked into the night and never returned. But in a fragmented text from an extinct race called the progenitors, she found a reference to something they called the Great Dissolution. It was described not as an event, but as a process. A fundamental unraveling of reality. Meanwhile, the situation was getting worse. 3 more worlds had gone silent. The Assembly was on the verge of panic. Trade routes were being abandoned. Species were recalling their ships to their home systems, fortifying their borders. The fragile unity they had built was beginning to crack under the strain of fear. Admiral Mitchell's fleet had established a perimeter around the affected zone, but there was nothing to fight. There were guards against the ghost. "We need to understand the mechanism," Rachel Kim told Marcus during a strategy meeting. "How is this happening? If we know the how, we might be able to block it." Maya, who had been invited to sit in on the meeting as a representative of the younger generation, took a deep breath. "Chancellor, I think I have a theory. It's not a weapon. It's a resonance." All eyes turned to her. "Explain," Marcus said, his expression encouraging. "The progenitor text talks about a fundamental frequency of the universe. A vibration that holds matter and consciousness together. What if something is introducing a counterfrequency? A signal that cancels out our own? It wouldn't destroy things. It would just unmake them. Vibrate them out of existence." Rachel leaned forward, her mind racing. A resonance that targets consciousness. That would explain why there are no bodies. The physical form is left behind, but the person, the life force, is gone. It would also explain why it's spreading, Maya continued. A frequency like that could propagate through subspace, jumping from world to world. The more minds it consumes, the stronger the signal becomes. The room was silent for a moment. The theory was terrifying, but it also offered a glimmer of hope. A frequency could potentially be measured, analyzed, and even countered. "How do we test this?" Marcus asked. "We need to get closer," Rachel said. "We need a ship that can enter the affected zone, measure the subspace frequencies, and get back out before the resonance takes hold." "It would be a suicide mission," Elena Vasquez stated flatly. "Not necessarily," Maya countered. "The resonance seems to target complex biological consciousness. What if we sent a ship with an AI crew? An artificial mind might be immune, or at least resistant." It was a radical idea. The Assembly had strict laws about AI, born from the old Council's fear of uncontrolled intelligence. But these were desperate times. "I'll pilot it," a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a tall, lean man with cybernetic implants along his spine. It was Commander Jason Rodriguez, the analyst who had helped uncover the True Order conspiracy. He had been part of an experimental human-AI integration program. "My consciousness is part digital," Jason explained. "I might be able to interface with the ship's AI and resist the resonance long enough to get the data we need." It was a huge risk. But as Marcus looked around the room, at the faces of his friends and colleagues, he knew they were running out of time. The silence was growing, and if they didn't act soon, there would be nothing left to save. "Prepare the ship," Marcus ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. "Commander Rodriguez, you have your mission. Godspeed." The ship was a prototype scout vessel, sleek and unarmed, named the Curiosity. Its interior was a single, compact space, more computer than cabin. Jason Rodriguez sat in the command chair, neural interface cables coiling from the ports on his spine to the ship's core AI. He felt the ship's systems as an extension of his own body. "Curiosity to Assembly Command," he said, his voice calm. "I am approaching the perimeter of the first silent world, designated X7. "We read you, Commander," Rachel's voice replied in his ear. "All systems are green. We are monitoring your biosigns and the ship's data stream." As the Curiosity slipped past the Admiral's blockade, the stars outside seemed to change. They looked dimmer, somehow older. Jason felt a strange sense of melancholy, a profound sadness that seemed to emanate from the void itself. "I'm detecting the frequency," Jason reported, his eyes closed as he focused on the streams of data flowing through his mind. "It's beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. Like a song about the end of everything." On the command deck, Rachel and her team watched the data on their screens. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. A complex, multi-layered wave pattern that seemed to defy the laws of physics as they knew them. "Jason, can you analyze the structure?" Rachel asked. "It's not a single signal," Jason replied, his voice distant. "It's a symphony. A million voices, all singing the same note of surrender. They're not gone. They're joined. Part of the song." The implications were staggering. The populations of the silent worlds weren't dead. They had been assimilated into a single, vast consciousness. "Jason, you need to pull back," Marcus ordered. "You're getting too close." "I can't," Jason whispered. "It's calling to me. It's offering peace. An end to all the struggle, all the pain. It's tempting." Rachel's heart sank. The resonance was affecting him, despite his cybernetic enhancements. "Jason, fight it," she shouted. "Remember who you are. Remember what you're fighting for." "I'm trying," he gasped. His biosigns were fluctuating wildly. "But it's so peaceful. To just let go." On the bridge, Maya watched in horror. She thought of the Elleran's words. Asterisk a hunger. A silence, asterisk it wasn't a hunger for destruction. It was a hunger for unity. A desperate, lonely desire to end the isolation of individual existence. "Jason," Maya said, her voice soft but firm, cutting through the command channel. "Your name is Jason Rodriguez. You helped save the assembly from the True Order. You have a family on Mars. A niece who just started school. Don't let that song erase them. Don't let it erase you." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, Jason's voice returned, stronger this time. "Maya? You're right." He took a ragged breath. "I have the data. The complete harmonic structure. I'm sending it now." "Get out of there, Jason," Elena commanded. "Working on it," he grunted. The Curiosity's engines flared to life, and the ship began to turn, away from the silent world. But it was too late. The resonance had a hold on him. The ship's AI was fighting it, but Jason's human consciousness was the weak link. "It's in my head," he stammered. "Tell my family." "I'm sorry." The data stream suddenly stopped. The Curiosity hung in space, motionless. On the bridge, Rachel stared at the screen, her face pale. "We've lost him," she said quietly. "The signal is gone." Jason Rodriguez and the ship Curiosity had become the latest addition to the Silent Symphony. But he had not died in vain. He had sent them the key. The data Jason sent was a torrent of information, a complete blueprint of the resonance frequency. Assembly scientists from a dozen species worked around the clock, analyzing its structure, searching for a weakness. What they found was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The resonance was not an attack. It was a form of communication, a fundamental broadcast from the space between galaxies, where reality itself was thin and frayed. It was a call from a dying universe, a plea for connection that was so powerful it was unconsciously absorbing other consciousnesses to sustain itself. It doesn't want to hurt us, Maya explained to the Assembly Council, presenting the scientific team's findings. It's lonely. It's calling out for anyone who can hear, and our minds, our individual consciousnesses, are like bright lights in its endless darkness. It's drawn to us, and in trying to join with us, it extinguishes our light. So we cannot fight it, Thar the Slith rumbled. We cannot shoot a feeling. We cannot bomb a song. No, Maya agreed. But we can answer it. We can't block the frequency, but we can change our own. We can create a counter-frequency. A harmony that acknowledges its call but asserts our individuality. A psalm of togetherness without dissolution. The proposal was as complex as the problem itself. They needed to create a new kind of broadcast, one that could be projected across the entire assembly territory, protecting every mind within it. It would require the combined mental and technological resources of every member species. The telepaths, like the Alara, would be the core. They could shape and direct the intent. The technological species, like the crystalline xylos, could generate the carrier wave. The humans, with their unique blend of creativity and pragmatism, would act as the conductors, orchestrating the entire effort. It was a plan that required absolute trust and perfect synchronization. It was the ultimate test of the Galactic Assembly. In the weeks that followed, the Assembly became a single, focused entity. On Earth, in the great halls of the Aryans, and the crystalline cities of the Xylos, millions of minds began to practice. They learned to meditate, to focus their thoughts, to contribute their unique racial consciousness to the greater whole. Maya, with her unique upbringing and her deep understanding of both human and alien cultures, was chosen as the primary human conductor. She worked alongside the Ellerin delegate, learning to merge her thoughts with others, to feel the collective consciousness of the assembly without losing herself. The old fears and rivalries that had once divided them began to fade, replaced by a shared purpose. They were no longer just a collection of species. They were becoming a true community, bound not by fear or force, but by a common desire to exist. Finally, the day came. The resonance was approaching the assembly core worlds. They had one chance to create their counter-symphony. Maya sat in a chamber deep within the Earth, surrounded by representatives from every member species. Neural interfaces connected them all. In orbit, a vast array of transmitters, built by every species, waited to broadcast their combined consciousness. "Are we ready?" Marcus's voice asked in her mind. Maya looked at the Ellerin delegate, who nodded serenely. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. "We are ready," she thought, her voice joining the chorus of others. "Let us sing." The moment they began, Maya felt a sensation unlike anything she had ever experienced. Her individual consciousness did not disappear. Instead, it expanded. She could feel the thoughts of the Slith, ancient and grounded in the earth. She could sense the crystalline logic of the Xylos. She could hear the soaring, empathetic songs of the Aryans. And at the center of it all was the profound, silent wisdom of the Alara. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. They were a symphony of life, a chorus of 1,000 different experiences singing a single, unified song. Their counter-frequency broadcasted from the transmitters, a wave of golden energy that spread outwards from Earth. It was not a shield or a weapon. It was a message. A response to the lonely call from the void. "We hear you," the harmony sang. "You are not alone. But we cannot join you. We are here, in this universe, in these bodies. We are separate, and that separation is what gives us meaning. We offer you not our absorption, but our acknowledgement. We offer you our friendship across the void. We will remember you. You will not be forgotten, **. For a long moment, there was only silence. The dark, hungry song from the edge of nothingness paused, as if in surprise. Then, a new note joined the harmony. It was the same sad, beautiful frequency, but it was different now. The desperation was gone, replaced by a sense of peace, of gratitude. It was the sound of a lonely soul finally being seen. The two frequencies, the call of the void and the song of the assembly, harmonized for a brief, perfect moment. It was a conversation between universes, a bridge across the emptiness. Then, slowly, gently, the frequency from the void began to recede. It did not vanish. It just returned to its place in the deep darkness between galaxies, no longer calling out in desperation, but content in the knowledge that it was not alone. In the chamber on Earth, the connection faded. Maya returned to herself, tears streaming down her face. She looked around and saw that she was not alone in her tears. Every being in the room wept, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of what they had just experienced. They had not defeated an enemy. They had comforted a stranger. They had not proven their strength. They had proven their humanity. In the aftermath of the Great Harmony, as it came to be known, the galaxy was forever changed. The silent worlds remained silent, a monument to the vastness of the cosmos and the mysteries it held. But the fear was gone, replaced by a profound sense of connection. The Galactic Assembly had faced its greatest test and had emerged not just intact, but transformed. The experience of the shared consciousness had created a bond between species that could never be broken. They were no longer just allies, they were, in a very real sense, parts of a whole. Humanity's role in this new order was unique. They had not been the strongest, or the wisest, or the most advanced. But they had been the catalyst. Their stubborn refusal to kneel, their struggle for respect, and their ultimate willingness to see a potential enemy as a lonely soul had been the spark that had ignited the Assembly's true potential. Marcus Thorne, now in his final term as Assembly Chancellor, stood with Maya on the same observation deck where he and Elena had stood years before. The scene outside was even more vibrant than before, with new ships from species that had once been hesitant to join now eagerly participating in the Assembly's work. "You know," Marcus said, "when we first walked out of that council chamber, I thought we were fighting for our place in the galaxy. I was wrong." Maya looked at him, questioningly. "We were fighting for the galaxy's place in us," Marcus continued. "We were fighting for the chance to build something better than what we found. We just didn't know it at the time." He looked at Maya, seeing in her the future he had fought for. A future where humanity was not just a survivor, but a builder, a healer, a friend. "Your mother would be proud," Marcus said softly. "She is," Maya replied with a smile. "She told me that humanity's greatest strength was never its ability to fight, but its capacity to care. Even for the voice in the dark." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the ships dance in the light of a distant star. The old council had seen humanity as primitive primates who had stumbled into space travel. They had been right about one thing. Humanity was primitive. They were flawed, and emotional, and endlessly struggling with their own nature. But they had also shown the galaxy that those so-called primitive traits, compassion, empathy, the refusal to abandon hope, were not weaknesses. They were the very foundation upon which a true civilization could be built. The galaxy was a vast and mysterious place, full of wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But as long as there were beings willing to reach out in friendship, to sing their own song in the face of the silence, there would always be a future worth fighting for. Humanity had come to the stars seeking a place to belong. In the end, they had done more than that. They had helped the stars themselves find a way to belong together. And that was a legacy more profound than any empire, more lasting than any council. It was the harmony of existence, and humanity had finally found its part to play.